They hail from around the globe, and though separated by oceans, they gather in the virtual world for reasons as varied as their locales. Whether it's a defending champion looking to retain his title, a new and eager hopeful striving for recognition, or a legend prepared to recapture past glory, in the end, the one goal they all share is to win. But when naming a victor, only one driver's name can be etched into the record books. You're watching the Heusinkveld MX-5 World Tour.
After a round 3 at Road America that kept the incident review team very busy, the hands have been slapped, evil eyes have been appropriately cast, deep breaths have been exhaled, and the series brings its fleet of little cars to another big track. As the aroma of chocolate entwines with the smell of engine exhaust, it's the Heusinkveld MX-5 World Tour Round 4 from Spa-Francorchamps. And you can see all the simulated Mazda action from green flag to victory donuts live as it happens right here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hello from the battleground of Europe and welcome to another GSRC broadcast. Way up in the press box to bring you our Words Eye View is yours truly, Bill Soupson, joined by the fan belt himself, Johan Vandenveld. Joe Peak has director duties armed with cameras locked and loaded by Dougie Beard. Johan, we are at Spa. For GSRC followers, a very common location. But for those unfamiliar with this place, I'd first like to say mankind has indeed landed on the moon. Milk will sour if it's not kept cold. And always wear safety goggles when working with tools. With that said, Johan, tell the viewers about today's venue.
A night, a racing driver and a mayor walk into a hotel. Now this sounds like the beginning of a very lame joke, but the result of this meeting in 1920 is what we race on today, Spa-Francorchamps. For almost 100 years, this track has been loved by racing fans in both real life and online. The history of this Belgian course is rich. It started with an immense 15-kilometer circuit in 1921, which connected the towns of Francorchamps, Malmedy and Stavelot. After decades of racing, the circuit saw some track changes in the 80s. Due to safety concerns, the length was reduced to around 7 kilometers and roughly the layout we see today. But even though the circuit has been shortened, it still breathes history. Corners like Eau Rouge, Pouhon, Stavelot and Blanchimont are respected by all drivers who visit here. Today, in the Mazdas, we maybe go a little bit slower than most people are used to in Belgium. With lap times of around 3 minutes, drivers will battle in packs, trying to save fuel and not lose the draft. Now this sounds a lot easier than it actually is, as you have to be extremely precise and always be on the limit. To see how this looks like from the driver's point of view, however, let's hop on board our GSRC MX-5 for a lap around Spa-Francorchamps.
Alright, we've got Amjad Yammer in the GSRC MX-5, so let's do a lap around Spa. Coming up to La Source, you've got a great place for a pass, but be wary on the first lap. This hairpin is notorious for chaos, so be careful not to throw away your race by getting tangled up in the first corner. Another important thing to consider is your exit of La Source. You're now plunging down the old pit straight towards Eau Rouge, and you should be on the power for quite a while. Get the car lined up to the right, and do your best to minimize your steering input into this incredible uphill climb. Just make sure you don't get a cut course at Radillon or you'll be losing positions hand over fist down the Kemmel Straight. This is where things will get exciting though. The draft in these MX-5s mean you will see two different types of drivers. One will be looking to use the slipstream to overtake all day long, and the other will be lifting and fuel saving to outthink their opponent in the race. However, if you can't make the pass on the straight, the braking in a Lecumbe offers a chance to seal the deal. Keep your head on a swivel though, because your competitor can fight back from the outside on the switchback to the left. From there, you'll swing the car through Malmedy at the highest part of the circuit. Now we fall back downhill into Ravage, and this 180-degree corner can sometimes offer a chance for a sneaky overtake. It's also got some awkward camber, making it easy to understeer. Square off the exit and switch sides quick to get the car set up for the left-hander. This is the corner that invites confidence, maybe a bit too much confidence. Try not to overshoot the exit to avoid a 1X. Now, if you look up, you can see the pit complex way down in the valley, but we won't be there anytime soon. Hold right and then gently coax the car into Pouhon. Lose the rear and anyone behind you will be coming in blind and can likely plow into you. Lose the front, and thankfully you've got a parking lot of paved runoff on the exit to save you. Still, it's important to carry your speed because as we bring the car to the left, you're going to have some decent braking into Fagnes. This isn't that interesting of a chicane, but getting the right line is still important to your lap time. The exit, though, is not a big deal because it's a very short acceleration zone to Stavolo. After all the drop in elevation, you finally reach the lowest point of the circuit. Get the car steady and lined up so that you won't need a lift into Curve of Paul Frere. You'll need every ounce of momentum once again down the backstretch. The little bends throughout means minimizing your inputs will help your speed. Just like the Kemmel Straight, draft battles are likely to take place on this stretch. It's just a little more awkward with the way the natural line weaves you across the track. You want to get single file by Blanchimont though. Even though it's flat out in the MX-5, it's still not worth trying to go side by side. After that comes the braking for the bus stop chicane. This is your last best chance to get an overtake in. Because of the high speeds, a lot of guys fall victim to overshooting it, so even if someone's later than you on the brakes, you can still get the spot back. There's one final spot where you can rack up a 1x, so get yourself a clean exit. Hopefully, you held it all together, and as we come back to the line, we finished a lap around Spa.
The voice of our director today, Joe Peak, talking and taking us around Spa. All right, now what I'm going to do is take you around the point standings, and we're going to start with the driver standings. Now, these are the pro standings, but it gets a little more complicated as we get down to the bottom. Sonny Ketchen has 2 wins and a 3rd place so far this season. Robert Hartley has a win and a 2nd, plus a 3rd round no-show that he gets compensated for, according to the rules. So when you add it all up, you can see Ketchen is out in front by 18 points. Marcello Fajan has a 2nd and a 3rd, but a really bad result at Road America last time. Now, Artem Koralski has compensation for missing the season opener, and since then has a pair of 4ths. Now, here's the interesting part. Tied with the Ukraine driver is Kip Stevens. Now, Kip is classified as an amateur, but like Stefan Van Ofstroom last year, Kip's performance this season has been so impressive that he's managed to put himself in a tie for 4th overall. And the GSRC stat boy, Simon Pondexter, did not have the heart to leave him off the overlay. So the Brit sits there in a tie for 4th. And they wanted me to offer my apologies to Stelian Chepalevsky, who was the pro driver that was bumped off the graphic. All right, so there's your pro drivers. Now let's look at the AM driver standings, where Johan will logically tell you about Kip at the very top.
Exactly. Surprise, surprise. Kip Stevens is leading the amateur championship so far. He's leading by 39 points above Jordi Fike, who had a great run last time around in Road America, winning 3 positions in the process. The American driver overtook with that, including Björn de Vors, who is currently sharing 3rd place with his northern rival Erik Koeman. Over 49 points behind Kip Stevens and Stefan Veenhoff, another Dutch driver, is sitting in 5th place, losing 1 position to Jordi Fike. Stefan Veenhoff is 54 points behind Kip Stevens.
And you know, Johan, before we go to the series details, let's drill down a little bit more on the AM Championship, which honestly has put on his greatest racing this season as the pros have. There's been some good stuff in the back of the.
Absolutely, every race it's almost like there's a group of 3-4 drivers that they're producing a different leader, a different victor almost every race so far. If you look at the beginning of the race, you can see a certain standings in the amateur championship, and half a race later it's completely different. They are having incredible fights, and it's a joy to watch this season.
It really is. Okay, well, now let's go to those event details to see exactly what's in store for us today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we are in season 16 of the Heusinkveld Mazda World Tour. This is round 4 of 11. As you mentioned before, Bill, there are 3 no-show compensations. That means that the drivers who do not show up for 3 events do not have a drop week. They do not get 0 points. They kind of get compensated based on the average score that they score in other races. So it's not as good as a drop week, but it's also not a 0-point result. The race distance today, however, it's 16 laps around Spa-Francorchamps. The setups are open. That means that the drivers can change it just to their liking with 1 pit stop. And there is no incident cap today, but there are points available if you can keep it clean. There's a miles per incident bonus point at the end of the season. So trying to keep it clean, which is hard here at Spa, will give you a lot of points at the end of the season.
And the no-show compensation is an interesting rule. It's that balancing act. It allows drivers to be able to miss a race without having their season ruined, but it also makes everything that happens on the track important. If you have a bad result, it's going to count. You just don't get to wash it away by dropping it. Hey, let's look at the weather. It usually rains in this part, but we don't have that implemented yet on this platform. So what do we got today here? Oh, pretty good.
Yeah, it's partly cloudy. Well, that's probably something that the people in the Benelux are wishing it was at the moment. It's a nice 20 degrees Celsius out there. That's 68 degrees Fahrenheit for the people across the pond. The track temperature is 74 degrees Fahrenheit, 23 degrees Celsius. So a nice, yeah, slightly cold, but especially for this time of year, very good weather for the people here in the Benelux. The wind, looking at it, it's moderate, 5 miles per hour, 7 kilometers an hour, changing slightly, but not very strong. So the drivers will not have to worry too much about the wind out there today.
Okay, so now let's get down to the specifics of this car-track combination, Johan. I got to assume we're looking at another draft track here today.
Absolutely. You have such long straights. Basically, where we are now with Gene Fitters, La Source hairpin, from this point all the way until you reach Lacombe, around 40-50 seconds later, it is basically flat out. You have a slight lift when you go through a roost, but basically that whole section of the track is where you can drop with each other, especially when you are almost reaching Lacombe. You might actually be off the throttle completely just to fuel save and the like to stay in the draft. But not only this part of the track, the area towards Pouhon, the area towards Blanchimont, those are all really long straights where drafting is important, fuel saving is important. So like we mentioned before, I will not be surprised if we see a lot of pack racing here today at Spa.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here, help out your commentator here. Where is our start line today, do we know, and where is our finish line today here at Spa? It always changes on me and I get confused.
We race at the endurance one, so if I'm correct, we have the starting line and the finishing line after La Source. So that basically means that after we cross La Source, you go down towards Eau Rouge. Oh, sorry, the finish line is before La Source, but the starting line is after.
Okay, got it. So we're going to go around the hairpin, and that's when we'll get the start, and then the finish will be out of the bus stop there, the little 1819 chicane. Now that's a fun place because there is enough time in these little cars that you can get a run out of that chicane and still snipe somebody before the line. So I love Spa, and I'm glad to see, Johan, you get a little bit confused as well. I can never remember where they move it around here. We got to help a brother out here and put the start-finish line in the same place everywhere. Looking there at Gene Fitters, the New Zealand driver.
Yeah, Gene Fitters, while we were talking qualifying, has been underway for quite a bit. Well, Gene Fitters currently has set himself on P4 in the qualifying standings with a 2:46.6. Now, looking at the qualifying times, it is extremely close, with the top 5 only separated by 2.5 tenths of a second. Stefan Geplievski is currently sitting on pole position with a 46.4, 18 thousandths of a second in front of Robert Hartley.
Yeah, Stellian, the driver that got bumped off the top 5 graphic because of the success of Kip Stevens, sitting up there at the top. Bob Hartley has a win so far this season, catching with 2. He's sitting in 3rd. A lot of big names here today.
Yeah, exactly. And just to quickly reiterate about the amateur championship, the leader at that in that championship for qualifying is Renaud Lefebvre. The amateur driver is currently sitting in P13, and he is the quickest amateur driver in qualifying. Kip Stevens, the driver that we've been following a little bit, he's not having a too good qualifying session. He's sitting in P6, if I'm not correct. So, yeah, slightly bad qualifying for Kip Stevens, but we'll see what he'll do in the race.
And I have the ability to look at the pro and the amateur standings as they are right now. The top 12, the cut line is really good here that they have. The cut line, top 12 are all pros, and then the amateurs go 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. Then like 19th and 20th. Dexter Castro, the only pro driver sitting down there in 18th. There's Dexter. Dexter, for those of you, I've said this almost every race, but we always have new viewers. He's the last remaining drivers we are in season 16 to have raced in every one, at least once, in every one of the 15 previous seasons, and here again. So his streak continues at 16.
Dexter Castro still has one qualifying lap to go here. Going through Blanchimont at the moment. Long period that you just keep it completely floored until here you completely throw out the anchors. Hard braking for the bus stop chicane. Flick to the right and a flick to the left, and then it is full throttle. Now he actually goes to the pits. And he hits the pit wall. Well, I mentioned he would finish his qualifying lap, but he at least knows now what not to do when he makes his pit stop during the race.
Dexter's been around long enough. That's not the first time that's happened. Hey, there's our AM champion so far, our leader at least, Kip Stevens. Small field today, Johan. We only got 21 drivers out there. Oh, and with that said, let's remind you that, well, we're going to have a plug. We're going to do our grid first, though. Make sure we get this out of the way. Oh, there's the plug. I can do it real quick. Put it up, Director. Heusinkveld offers a broad array of products and services, including advanced vehicle simulation software and hardware sponsoring. They sponsor practically every major team in sim racing today. If you're looking for an edge in sim racing, go to Heusinkveld.com. And now the grid. On the front row, it is Bob Hartley and Stelian Chepelevsky, Gene Fittis and Stephen and Sonny Katchen in row 2, Travis Schwenke and Stephen Van Ofstroh, 5 and 6. Anwar Burrell-Smith in 7th position inside of Stefan Overgaard. David Hampson in 9th. The Bay State Hammer, Tom Ratchey in 10th. Go, Johan.
Yeah, Quintilier starts the race in P11, and next to him Steve Havert. Renal Lefebvre, the leader, the pole sitter in the Amateur Championship, starts 13th, and he's flanked by Erik Koeman. Robert Wielenga starts 15th. Next to him, Bjorn de Force. Jordi Fike starts 17th. Next to him, the leader in the Amateur Championship, Kip Stevens. Dexter Castro, we named him before. He starts in 19th, and he's being followed by Derek Holland. And the last driver out there today, Jeroen Oersum, starts the race in 21st position.
We did it. Both Johan and I will get our GSRC's commentators bonus for getting through the grid before they go green. Got in the plug too, not as smooth as Jake Sperry would have done it, but we got it done. All right, it is round 4. There are 11 rounds. Of course, the last round is double points, double distance. The drivers trying to position themselves for that. We wait for everyone to get out there. Robert Hartley on the pole, Stelian Chepelevsky right next to him, as they stagger the front rows. Schwenke and Van Ofstroh back in row 3. Our top amateur, Renaud Lefebvre, back in 13th position. You can hear those little Mazda engines start to harmonize. Yeah, they're at the chicken steak covering on the cows. The horses are out of the barn. It's Robert Hartley leading the stampede down into the first corner. Chepelevsky holding position in 2nd. Fittis slots into 3rd. Katchen back in 4th. Travis Schwenke in 5th. There is a crowd, though, as they work their way through Radion.
Yeah, the amateur category is Robert Wielenga with a great start. Lefebvre had the worst start of them, but he can keep everyone behind him. It's very tight, though. Everyone is trying to get in front of each other in the amateur category. In front of the field, though, it is Robert Hartley on the outside. It's Chepelevsky on the inside. The first one through Lacombe is Chepelevsky. He stays in front and grabs P1.
Oh, they look like animals getting ready to get on the arc, and there's a tap. David Hampson goes around. He got touched by Gianni Quintilier. We have it bookmarked. Also involved in this. Oh, it's a big one, actually. Tom Ratchey got involved in it as well, as did Lefebvre. Woo, that was an ugly one.
As well. Yeah, several amateur drivers being caught out in that crash there. And that has completely broken up the fields, even before we're done with half a lap. In the track where the draft is so important in the amateur category. If we go back to the front of the field, however, Gene Fittis is being swarmed by Travis Schwenke for P4.
Don't worry, we will come back and take a look at that crash a little bit later. Let's stay with the action as the drivers still continue to work lap number 1. Katchen, your point leader, back in 5th there, Johan.
Yeah, they're all going single file here through this section of the track, but when they get out here, out of Staffelo, I think that we'll see side-by-side racing again, because a long straight with especially a hard braking position at the bus stop chicane, this will offer some overtaking opportunities. Looking at Travis Schwenke, he's very close to Gene Fittis in front of him. Robert Hartley as well, close to Chepelevsky.
That's a great shot of the 9-car train that is running behind the leader. Stefan Overgaard and Gianni Quintilier, 8th and 9th, the 2 tail ends of that train.
Kavalievsky stays in front of Hartley for now. Gene Vidas extremely close behind them. Hartley stays on the inside though, doesn't go back to the racing line, but everyone just slots in behind him once again as they go through the bus stop. It is Sonny Kenshin in the back though, who has to go extremely wide to keep the momentum up. He keeps it floored though, he keeps the momentum going.
That 9-car train continues. A little bit of a look back there in 9th. You can see Quintilier taking a peek on the inside of Overgaard, and he indeed gets that spot made. And now that's going to allow the amateurs to get into the mix. There's 3 of them back in 10th position. Stevens and Coleman, and they're trying to bring along DeForge as well. Amateurs running 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Great start from Kip Stevens. We were mentioning that he had a bad qualifying out there, starting only 6th or 7th in the class. But after one lap, he is already leading once again, although he's being challenged by Erik Koeman on the exit of Radion side by side going over Camel Straight.
While all that was going on, a very polite pass for the lead. Hartley goes around the outside of Chepelevsky. They head down into Lacombe. Kanchin gets over Vidas. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Johan. And this is the corner where the trouble happened on lap 1 here. Let's go take this opportunity while things are settled down, as the drivers will behave. We'll look at this incident that happened early on. One of the drivers involved, really David Hampson is involved in this one when we find him. We're going to start all the way from the very beginning of the grid. Oh, here we have, no, we haven't.
Yeah, just look in the middle of the track. It's Quintilier, Tom Ratje and David Hampson. 3 wide through Lacombe, and just 3 wide there doesn't make it stick. It was Quintilier tapping around David Hampson, who hit Tom Ratje hard and just sent everyone into a spin with several cars being caught up behind him.
Yeah, and the real incident happened farther down with Ratche getting turned around, and then Walenga got into him, and lots of cars had to take evasive action, so that was a rough one early on. As we come back live, it looks like Tom Ratche is the only driver that took a pit stop from that. Not sure if Tom's still out there racing or not. Nope, he's DNF. So we're down to 20 cars on track.
Well, luckily though, that even though a lot of people were caught up in that incident, well, everyone except Tom Ratche can still continue, including Robert Wielinga, who got probably the hardest knock of all the drivers that's still going on. Robert Wielinga is driving around the P20, a few seconds behind the rest of the field, but like I said, he's still going.
Now, one of the unique features of this series, you might be thinking, well, a small field, Tom Ratche, at least he's going to finish last. He's going to get 20th. Not so bad. No, what they do is they ration the points. You get 100 for a win, 25 for last, and then they sprinkle it out, ration it out to the drivers in between. So a last place is a last place, no matter if you're in a field of 60 or a field of 10. Oh, they work their way around the hairpin now.
Behind the leading group though, it's Stefan Overgaard and Quintilier still fighting with each other through La Source, and I think that fighting has cost them the draft, has lost them the draft to really the top 7 of them, because there's several seconds between the two now. I don't think, especially with the way the two are driving at the moment, as they're going side by side through Eau Rouge, side by side through Radion. I think that means both of them go wide. I think that's Quintilier in the ball. Yeah, that's Quintilier in the ball.
Quintilier spun and got clipped as he came across the track.
He tried to, and he got hit hard by Erik Koeman as well, yeah. He just tried to keep it floored, going side by side through Eau Rouge, and man, that car just didn't want to grip the way he envisioned it would.
You're right in the cow car, and yeah, Eric got a lot of that one. It was the cow catcher that got him. That one's courtesy of Joe Peak.
Yeah, and Erik Koeman immediately losing a position to Björn de Vos because of that incident. Stefan Overgaard is probably one of the drivers that lost the most, because he is now falling down the order so much that he's in the middle of the amateur championship.
So honestly, we have a 7-car train up front. I would just quickly read you the names in the order that they race: Chepelevsky, Hartley, Schwenke, Kanchin, Vidas, Smith, and Van Ofstroll. There's your 7 cars. But then, all by himself is Kip Stevens, our amateur leader. But then it gets fun back in like 9th position. DeForge, Koeman in a battle. Overgaard has fallen back into that mix as well.
Yeah, Erik Koeman is trying to find his way once again past Björn de Vos. Erik Koeman, of course, was challenging Kip Stevens for that lead in the amateur championship until he collected Quintier in that crash. And it seems that even though he got a knock on his car, he still has the speed and he's trying left and right to find a way past Björn de Vos. Coming here out of Stavelo, once again a very long straight. But Stefan Overgaard, he is the third car in that train, so he has the double draft, and he tries it here on the outside of Blanchimont. He gets Erik Koeman, but gets cut off there. He has to stay there boxed in, and Erik Koeman gets the position back. Ooh, a little bit over the curb stones, a little bit off the track there for Stefan Overgaard.
You know what's interesting is the unwritten rules. The racing often in the back half is a little more exciting than it is up front because these guys know how to behave a little bit. Can we go up front though real quick? Going through the bus stop, there was a bit of an accordion effect, and I was a little bit worried that maybe Burrell Smith might lose contact with Kanchan. No, I think he's going to be okay. The draft is so big here. Johan, you really have to be a lot far back. It was a bit of a boink, 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 boink accordion type thing going on nose to tail from everybody. A little bit of nose damage on Smith's car. And he has it on the rear as well. Drivers in jeopardy of getting left behind. Fittest back in 6th, then Ostrel in 7th.
Yeah, you can almost say that that 7-car train is being cut in half now with the 4 leading cars going strong and 3 cars behind. Because Sonny Kanchan just braked very early for Lacombe. That allowed Burrell Smith to completely catch up with the rest of them again, and I think that they've mended that gap.
Yeah, well, Hartley was racing in 2nd. Hartley surrendered the spot to Schwenke, so he moves down into 3rd. Here's a fun one. The Sheriff, Jody Fike, sits 2nd in those amateur points, racing with a long-time veteran here in this series, and that would be Derek Holland.
Yeah, Jeroen Oersum in the pink. Car behind him isn't that far away either. David Hampson in front of them as well. Nice 4-car train, 4P14 at the moment. The Jeroen Oersum seems to be falling a little bit behind. I think that the Dutch driver is on the verge of almost losing the draft, especially as he goes quite wide here in Pouhon. Has to brake a little bit in the middle of the corner to not really run wide and spin himself around, and that costs him valuable momentum, especially here if they go to Lefang.
Right behind these guys, Director in 17th. Can we get a shot at Jeroen Oersum's car? Always races a pink car. Now, he usually races in battles with Joe McDonald. Joe's not here today, so I think Jeroen, in his honor, is racing a big McDonald's Golden Arches on his car. I'm loving it, it says on there. Jeroen is very funny. That's a good look at it. So even though Joe is not here, he's here in spirit. Let's go up front. They're working through the bus stop again. It is really exciting when these guys go. These 7 cars, they get really close through here.
Yeah, of course, no one is really showing everything that they have at the moment. They're keeping their gunpowder dry, so to speak, because it is a very long race, 16 laps, and especially because of the draft. We've talked about it before, Bill. It's so incredibly strong that you cannot drive away no matter how quick you are. The draft is so strong that the people behind you will stay with you. So at this point of the race, it is fuel saving, and it's also surviving. It's making sure that once everyone accordions towards each other in the bus stop, in Lacombe, that you don't take each other out, and that even if something happens with other cars, that you do not lose the draft of the people in front of you.
Right, and so you may be wondering why we're not focusing more up front. You would think the racing is so close, but honestly, it's so choreographed right now, as Sepalevsky, I think, has had enough of leading as he tries to surrender the lead. That's going to mean put Schwenke out in front. They'll get this sorted out through here.
It's almost like a dance how it's going. They're just dancing around each other, trying to find the perfect position to position the car and keep the car. And especially you have to keep an eye on the dark green and black car of Sonny Kanchan, especially when they go over Camel Straight. Maybe next time around we have the camera on that you can follow it as the viewer, because what he is doing is incredibly interesting. He is not going full throttle anymore, basically the last part of this track. He's just letting it go, just rolling his car. He's in the draft, he will keep the momentum there. With that, he saves quite a bit of fuel, and especially in the pit stop, it will make a huge difference. Because he's P4 and he has to draft with several drivers, that get amplified even more and more, so you can save more fuel than you would while driving alone.
Right, nobody's gonna pull away. If you get out in front, there's no chance for Swanky to leave these guys behind. The one thing that you're just trying to avoid is making a mistake that causes you and maybe the guys behind you to lose the train. So those 7, Gene Fittis currently the caboose. But the rules don't apply farther back. Let's go back to 8th position. This is Kip Steven, Bjorn de Forge, and Eric Coleman. So much this season, this is where the action is. And these 3 guys race for 7th, all amateurs.
The alert viewers will see that there's a pro driver missing from the group. That's the car of Stefan Overgaard. He had a little spin in Lacombe this time around. He went side by side with Kip Stevens there. Almost made the overtaking maneuver stick, but just ran out of grip in the middle of the corner. Had to take it to the grass. Didn't get any damage, but he lost quite a bit of time. And Stefan Overgaard is currently driving P17 just behind Jeroen Oerten.
Here comes looking to the outside is de Forge. They come in again. This is the bus stop. This is the action part of the track right here. De Forge on the outside now will have the preferred position on the inside. Who can get the power down? Watching the whole thing is Eric Kuhlman in the cow car, which even with the contact that he had, that car still pretty competitive, and he's going to be on the inside as they go into La Source.
Yeah, and their battling is not helping them as much as they want, I think, because they're battling quite hard and doing 49s at the moment. That's quite okay, but the 2 drivers behind them, Dexter Castro and Steve Heffert, doing 48s. They're closing the gap with almost a second per lap. And I think that if they continue battling like this, within a lap, Steve Heffert will be in their draft.
Boy, that's a great point. When you were talking about them battling, I thought you were going to say, it was, oh my goodness, as they worked through Eau Rouge. I thought you were going to talk about their losing ground to the leaders. I don't think they really care about the leaders right now. They are losing ground to the guys that are chasing. Yeah, here come Heffert and Castro. In fact, look at Castro right now, giving him a bump draft. And trust me, as I look on this Steve Heffert's car, it looks like he's already had a little bit of bumping going on that rear end. Sure enough, here they are.
Yeah, a little bit more than bump drafting, it looks like what Steve had there. Yeah. But yeah, it's within a lap they've caught up, and it's really because of the battling between Björn and Kip that allowed these 2 drivers, these 2 pro drivers, to catch up to them and be in that pack. Behind them, Jordi Fike is going side by side with David Hampson. David getting that position, Jordi Fike being relocated 1 position. Derek Holland isn't far that behind. That is in P15 at the moment. So another 3-car train that's battling with each other and losing time to Stefan Overgaard.
Now keep in mind, Hampson is a pro driver, Fike is an amateur driver, but the way they score the amateur standings, it's where you finish. So every position counts, whether you pass a pro or an amateur. So Fike definitely wants to get around him.
Absolutely. We're going to the lead group, the lead 7, so to speak. Gene Fittis is falling away a little bit. Now I think that once they start breaking for the bus stop chicane, he will catch up once again. But at the moment, just look at the gap between him and Steven van Hopstel. That's I think 0.6 of a second. Well, that's not too much to lose draft, but especially because the cars in front are closer to the cars in front of them, the difference would be so much that Gene Fittis might fall away a little bit. Especially because Burrell Smith and Van Hopstel went side by side through Blanchimont. Yeah, you can see Gene Fittis can use that, breaks towards them again, and it's a nice, tidy 7-car group once again.
That is the perfect time to check in on them, because that's where things get really close in there. And they've already had a few bump incidents through that bus stop. Hartley out in front, Swanky, Kancham. The early leader, Chepelevsky, sitting back there in 4th, but don't worry. That's fine. He used up a lot of fuel early, so he's just saving it back.
Yeah, exactly. We mentioned Sonny Kenshin before. I think that he's the driver that's probably saving the most fuel of this pack so far, because he's always been in that lead battle, huh? The first 3-4 cars, but also on P3 and P4, so he can always save a little bit of fuel. But the people that were behind him, they sometimes just had to spend a little bit of more time to get their way forward to close the gap once again. Sonny Kenshin, however, doesn't want to sit be free right, threading the needle. And he's for the first time today your leader here at Spa.
Now, Johan, one thing that I learned from watching Aero Num both...
Oh, sorry, behind them, contact. Gaplievski and Stefan van Opstal hit each other, going side by side through Lacombe. Burrell Smith got a position because of that. Lucky for Stefan van Opstal and Gaplievski that neither of them spun around, because it was almost looking like that would happen. A big gap now between Gaplievski and Robert Hartley.
We'll take a look at it one more time on the replay. There you can see it as they get together.
A last minute move from Stefan van Opstal. I don't know why he tried. Of course, he has every right to, but it was maybe not the right time to try that move, because at that point of the straight it's really difficult to make that move stick and not lose any time as a group. And you can see that they immediately lose positions to the top three in front of them.
And that's what we were talking about. It's not, nobody's going anywhere. That's the one thing you just want to avoid, is making that mistake where you lose touch with the guys that are really fast up front. One thing I want to finish up on my point that I learned from watching Aero Num both in this series and in the absolute beginners racing in the underpowered cars. These guys will not race for position too much in the train. They really don't care where they are until they want to make a pit stop. That's usually a good indication when you see somebody fight to get to the front. They like to be first into pit lane.
Yeah, track position, simple as that. Yeah. You want to be in front of the group, you have less track to cover, and that's really when you want to make it in. But it's also a little bit almost difficult, because what if you go in and the rest chooses to go another lap where they can drive with each other? You can actually hurt yourself a lot as well by driving in front of the group. It has its pros and its cons, for sure.
So Fittis, they've all caught back up to the train. Fittis is now 12 seconds back to Kip Stevens. Let's go check back in on those guys, see what's going on. Oh my goodness, it's fun. They're going through the bus stop. The blue car is Stevens. That's Heffert now. Look what Stephen Heffert has done.
Yeah, Dexter and Steve Heffert have completely caught up with that train and slowly are moving their way through them. Erik Koeman made it very exciting there through the bus stop chicane by going side by side with Dexter Castro. He kept it clean, however. Dexter Castro winning a position, going to P11. Yeah, I think that Kip Stevens at the moment in this group is using a lot of fuel. I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, he has been leading this cackle of cars for the last few laps, and he's really burning fuel now.
Yeah, not only leading, sometimes well out in front. So yeah, let's see what happens here as we look at Heffert coming in. Heffert's going to make the pass. It was not that long. You go ahead.
No, I want to say behind him, Dexter Castro tried an overtake on Björn de Vos in a position where I would say that it wasn't really possible. The outside of Radion, you had to go with all wheels off the track to make it stick. He does make it stick, however. He cannot make it a 2-for-1 and also overtake Kip Stevens. Björn de Vos tries to keep it side by side. He doesn't hop back into the racing line there. But look at Steve Heffert. He's having a little gap between himself and Kip Stevens at the moment.
Well, I think Castro likes that combination of himself and Heffert. They were able to run down these guys. Heffert is now up in front. It wasn't that long ago that Castro was bump drafting Heffert down the track. And it's not that far back from Koeman. It's only just a tick under 3 seconds back to Hampson and Fike. And now joining that mix is Derek Holland. So there's a 3-car battle back here for 13th.
Looking at the lap times, the group of Hampson, Fike, Holland, they're doing 48.1s. The group in front of them, they're doing 49s or high 48s. That's almost a second per lap. It's slowing down, it's shrinking quite quickly at the moment. And I think if those 3 cars keep battling with each other, keep working together with each other, they will make it an 8-car group very soon.
Johan, it was once a 3-car train, now it turned into a 5-car train, and like you said, if the nonsense continues, the train's going to get longer. Who's back behind those guys? Stefan Overgaard's still out there in 16th, and Jeroen Eartham in 17th.
And Overgaard is actually very impressive at the moment, because he's driving all alone, but all alone he's doing the same lap times as the people in front of him. So once that 3-car group reaches the group in front of them, Stefan Overgaard will slowly catch up to them as well and join that group.
Hey, first pitter! Who is it? Who's coming in? It's Robert Hartley.
9 laps to go. That's Little bit of an early pit stop just before the halfway mark. And also all alone out there in the pits.
Well, now these guys know that they can't fool around. Schwenke knows that he's got a hot lap. And Kanchan knows not to slow him down.
Little gap though in that top group. Travis Schwenke is being put under pressure by Sonny Kanchan for P1. Now it's quite a gap to Schepielewski in P3. Is it small enough to catch back in the draft? I think it's just small enough to really bunch up once again when they reach Lacombe. That gap got worrisomely big when they went through La Source.
And now here comes a swap up here as they continue to dance up front. This is Schwenke. He's not going to slow down Kanchan. These guys know what's going on. Schwenke tucks right back in behind. He wants Sonny to have a good run through the to the Colombes coming up because they're racing Hartley, who's on the other side of the track. Being Asbury Motorsports teammates doesn't hurt either.
One driver that I think might have made his pit stop soon is Steven van Opstal. You mentioned it before. Once the pit stops are coming, that's the moment that you really want to move yourself forward into the group. As Steven is fighting hard with Brule Smith behind him, going side by side, having some dairy overtakes. Lacombe a few corners back. The gap between him and Schepielewski is increasing a little bit because of that. I think Steven van Opstal is really valuing the track position he has at the moment, readying himself for his pit stop.
I want to go to Robert Hartley real quick, director, back in, I think, 18th position right now. He fortunately got out of the pit stops just in front of, I'm going to take a shot at this, Renal Lefebvre. How was that? Want to take a shot at him for me there, Johan?
I would say Renal Lefebvre, but
Lefebvre, okay. The point is, he doesn't have to get around him, so he's got clear track in front of him.
Yeah, exactly. That will help him a lot, though. Let's see what kind of lap times Robert can do once he is alone and once he doesn't have people around him to draft with. The top 6 actually is coming towards the bus stop chicane at the moment. Let's see which one of these drivers will go in for the pit stop this time around. I predict Steven van Opstal might actually come in though because he was battling so hard. Gene Fitters is trying a dairy move around the outside there. No, Gene Fitters is actually the only one who's making his pit stop. Yeah, so let's see where he comes out in relation to Robert Hartley.
Fitters has a Uh-oh. Look at what's coming to the bus stop behind him. That's Heffer's going to be to the bus stop first. Castro now, sure enough, has got around those guys. A little bit of banging. That Stevens on the inside. None of them decide to pit. The Force goes wide. The cow car is in there as Coleman as well. Mike is almost in the mix. David Hampson is going to come in. Hampson and Holland.
Yeah, and Hampson and Holland were moving their way forward with those quick lap times that they were doing compared to the 5 cars battling in front of them. They probably think that together they can really make the difference once they're out there alone.
Okay, now Hartley's coming around. His job is to get out before Fittis. Show you how long it is. Fittis has worked his way around the fast food ordering clown. He's just pulling into his box right now.
But
that's how long it takes.
Well, it's of course, it is the GP pit lane that you have to go through and the endurance pit lane. So it is, I mean, I don't know, I'm very bad at guessing, but I guess it's like 400 or 500 meters of just pit lane you have to slowly drive through. Combine that with a very slow pit stop as well, a very slow refueling mechanism in his MX-5. It's just very long that you stand still. Gene Fitters gets underway once again. Robert Hartley is swinging himself around Eau Rouge at the moment. Gene Fitters is still on the exit, and yeah, Gene Fitters is losing that position to Robert Hartley.
Well, that's good news for Hartley, I would think, because Fitters was at the back of that train, and Hartley now has 3 seconds on him. So, based on what I'm...
Björn de Vos is in the wall. He got hit.
Oh my goodness.
By Erik Koeman on the exit of, I think, No Name Corner that was. On the rundown towards Pouhon. He got spun around into the wall. Let's just see if he can continue. It was a hard hit. Wouldn't be surprised if he has some suspension damage, but he's still going. He's not taking a toll.
And I'm going to cut I'm going to cut Koeman a little slack there. Looked like he was keeping that car straight. I'm not sure that DeForest knew that he had his nose in there. We're going to go on board.
Also seemed like a little bit of netcode on my screen, so it might have played a factor in this incident as well.
Okay, so we have a 6-car train up front as we come back live. Oh no! It's a pit party, boys and girls. Oh, and my goodness, almost getting into the back of Schwenke was Chepelevsky as they try to get a woad up.
Ooh,
Did
yeah,
they all come in?
almost...
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if it actually was a contact between Chepelevsky and Schwenke there when they came in for their pit stop. Now this, what we mentioned before, a long road before they turn around La Source in the pit lane and get to the pit box. Let's see where their competitors are at the moment.
Now, our director pointed out to me that maybe the difference between Hartley and Fittis was not so much pace as it was just time in the pits. Hartley was pretty quick. Right now, Hartley working his way to the bus stop. All the leaders still to find their box.
And behind them, everyone's making the picture. DeForest, Overgaard, Fike, Koeman, Stevens, Castro, Havert. Everyone in the second group as well is coming in. I think there's 12 cars at the moment in pit lane.
Hartley just now braking for La Source.
But what a lap time though, a 2:46.5. That's almost the same lap time as he was doing in qualifying.
Kanchan rolls. Schwenke rolls. They're all coming. Kanchan and Schwenke out well in front of the rest of the pitters. Where is Hartley? Here he comes, full steam. He gets up Van Opstroh. He gets Smith. He gets Chepelevsky, but that's it.
Now he has the pace though to close the gap to Schwenke, I think. He will not pass him before they reach Lacoon, but he will attach himself to the draft there with Sonny Kanchan in the lead after the pit stops.
Chepelevsky 2 seconds behind Hartley. And yes, you're right. He is right there. Hartley's on the back of Schwenke. So now the question is, can Chepelevsky get up on Hartley and turn this into a 6-car battle or a 7-car battle, or will it just stay between the 3?
And the main thing that you mentioned there is, will it be a 6-car battle? Because Gene Fittis has been falling away a little bit. He's kind of the loser of this pit stop cycle, because the gap between him and Steven Van Opstroh is, well, around 1.5 seconds at the moment. And he really has to put the hammer down to really attach himself again to that lead group.
Okay, so we've talked about the guys up in front, the top 7. Let's go back to Castro in 8th. Want to check, make sure everyone's made their pit stop. Sure enough, so Castro now has found himself in front of all those guys he was racing with. And he's got his buddy with him, Steve Heffert.
Yeah, those 2 pro drivers have really helped each other in the pit stop cycle to really leapfrog the amateur drivers they were battling with. And they're fighting it out now with the 2 of them, side by side, going towards the PIF path there. Steve Heffert getting that position. Behind him, however, there's a 5-car train going on. Stefan Overgaard has joined Jordi Fike, Kip Stevens, Eric Koeman and Derek Holland. I think that is the battle for P8 or 9.
But you found it though, Johan. This is our top amateurs. These are all the amateurs here. Kip and Fike, Koeman an amateur, Overgaard the only pro in there, and he's trying to make up time from his spin. Derek Holland in the mix as well.
One driver that has lost a lot of time is David Hampson. He's lost so much time in the pit stop cycle that he's currently behind Jeroen Oersem. Hampson, of course, was in the same train as, for example, Jordi Fike was before the pit stop. So I'm curious what exactly went wrong with him. But for sure that that driver, David Hampson, has lost a lot of time in the pit stop.
With 5 laps to go, we do have something, a feature that we have to take care of. And while we're back here looking at Ursum and Hampson, maybe we do Tripp's back marker shout out if we can. And we'll bring that up. And Johan, you did such a good job of it last time. I guess we'll start with, we got to go a little farther back. How about the driver in 19th, I guess? Is that where we're going to go?
Yeah, we start with Renal Lefebvre, P19 at the moment, Benelux driver, started P13, losing a few positions so far this race. Björn de Vos is in front of him. He, of course, got contact with the wall, and after his pit stop, he's fallen down the road a little bit as well. Currently in 18th position, Robert Wieninga is in front of him, P17. David Hampson is driving in P16. We don't know what happened with him, but he's fallen down the order a little bit as well. Jeroen Oersum, the beautiful pink McDonald's car, is driving in P15. He's being put under pressure by David Hansen, but in front of them, Derek Holland is having none of that. He's driving around in P14. Erik Koeman is in the same battle, driving in P13. Jordi Fike just got into P12. You can see them there side by side. This will be difficult to keep it in order. Kip Stevens is in P11, and Stefan Overgaard is in P10.
That is where the action is. And that's Tripp's backmarker shout out. That pays a tribute to Tripp Smith, somebody who truly does love this series. He runs a lot of practices during the week. Tripp, we love you. Thanks for everything you do for the series. Nothing going on up front. It is right now, for what it matters, it's Hartley, Schwenke, and Katchen. They race 1, 2, 3, nose to tail. We'll check in on that in a minute. This is really where the action is, though.
One thing though about the trip, the fact that Robert Hartley actually caught up with the other two drivers is just great driving from Robert Hartley. He made his very early pit stop and he kept the pace down in such a way that he was as quick as the drivers that were drafting with each other. Yeah. This is really impressive driving from Robert Hartley, who actually is leading at the moment, overtaking Sonny Kenshin and Trevor Schwenke last time around. Free wide through Blanchimont behind him. Steven Valpstel is losing 2 positions to Grabniewski and Brul Smith. Brul Smith getting a little tap there on the rundown towards bus-stop chicane from Grabniewski. That's not what you want there. Getting extremely loose and unstable. Keeps his car in a straight line. Great car control from Smith there. But that group, looking at the gap between these two free car groups, I think that the gap is just too big, and it's a trio for P1, 2, and 3, and a free car group for P4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, I think it's going to be kind of peaceful here up front between Hartley, Schwenke, and Ketchum. They're all pros. They all know how to race. I just don't think anything's going to happen until the white flag lap. But back in 4th, 5th, and 6th, that's where it's really going to mix up. Let's go back to where it's really crazy. In 11th. Now,
it's almost like...
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to say it's almost like a NASCAR race, the way they approach the bus-stop chicane, because it's just side by side, and there's one car behind it. Every single time they approach that part of the circuit, it's just insane to watch them race like this.
And again, I want to point out how cool the Pro and Am divisions are. Look how Hefford and Castro, those pro drivers, have worked their way through. Overgaard, another pro driver, has worked their way through, and now those amateurs are left to fight it out. Right now it's Coleman, Stevens, Fike, Holland, all battling.
And I'm actually curious if Stefan Overgaard can actually detach himself from this group, because the last time around he did a 47.7. That's a second quicker than Erik Koeman. Now, of course, Erik Koeman and Kip Stevens are in the draft of Stefan, but he's so quick, over a second quicker, that I actually think that's enough speed difference that he can just drive away, even though the people behind him are in his draft.
Coleman gets passed by Stevens, and also, but careful, they touch, the cow is in the grass. I guess he likes it there, but he's back on the track.
And he blocks up Derek Holland immediately when he comes back to the asphalt. That loses Derek Holland and also Erik Koeman quite a few car lengths towards Jordi Fike and Kip Stevens.
And now they separate out a bit after that. Woo.
Yeah, this is really stretching out now at the moment. I'm curious if when they reach the bus-stop chicane, if everyone just bunches towards each other once again. Derek Holland and Erik Koeman seem to have been seem to have lost the draft towards Jordi Fike.
Let's go up to 4th. We have a pass here. This could be exciting. Van Opstrel with a run now on the outside is Chepelevsky. Chepelevsky gets it done, but the action corner is down into the bus stop. Here comes Smith with a run. The defensive line up front from Chepelevsky. Now he eases over. Then Opstrel says, whoa, no bumping or banging. They get through there okay.
Ooh, very loose there from Chepelevsky, almost losing it on the exit of the bus stop chicane. Keeps it in a straight line though, but he has to go wide and off the track to do so. Behind him, it gives Steven Valpstra opportunity to put it side by side through the La Source corner. Steven Valpstra actually gets that position, but Will Smith tries to capitalize on that as well. Doesn't make a stick, single foul once again.
Just so you know, those guys are 3.3 seconds behind Swanky, who races in third.
Side through Eau Rouge, Scheplievski actually does it. Overtaking Steven Van Opstal in Eau Rouge. Now through Radion. Van Opstal is being put under pressure by Will Smith. He gets pushed off the track. Once that happens, Steven Van Opstal goes to the left and actually gives him space. But man, if you compare the driving of these three drivers with Swanky Hartley and Sonny Kenshin, there's actually a lot of difference. These three drivers are driving already like it's the last lap of the race, like a little bit cutthroat, just really going for those positions. But the top three at the moment, it's just more calm, a little bit more giving each other room.
I thought Chevalevsky was going to lose it. He loses a lot of momentum. Yes, Johan, look at he's still paying for it right now. A bump draft, though, from Smith. And Fittis has come in for another stop.
And Gene Fittis, of course, went, let's see. He actually had a very long pit stop as well, 3 seconds longer than everyone else. So I would doubt that he actually underfueled his car.
You are making a great point, though. The difference between the racing from 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, and 6, almost a different sport. The way those guys are behaving.
And with Gene Fittis making this pit stop, that gives P7 to Steve Heffert. That's a driver we haven't checked in for a little bit. Steve Heffert is in P7. He's being chased still by Dexter Castro. The duo still fighting with each other, drafting a little bit with each other. Ooh, Steve Heffert going wide there in Pujon. Still with some damage on the back of his car. But this duo now fighting for P7 and no longer for P8.
Yeah, we'll be able to follow in as we follow the leaders across the finish line when they get the checkered flag. Then we'll jump back and cover all these battles. Heffert and Castro in that battle. That's very interesting. Another good one, Director. Go back to 9th. This is Overgaard. You know, Johan, you talked about whether Overgaard can drive away from these guys. Well, he could for the most part. He brought Kip Stevens with him, though. But they're a 2-car battle for 9th.
Yeah, sorry, I quickly went back in the replay to see what happened with Gene Fittis. He actually blew his engine, shifting down toward the bus stop chicane. He blew his engine, so that's race over for Gene Fittis.
Well, we've talked about how peaceful it is up front. It's getting to the point now where it's time to start finding the position that you want to be in, as they are working with 2 to go now. I'll tell you, I like being in front, taking the inside line into the bus stop, and then getting momentum on the outside and getting a run to the finish line. That's where I would want to be. Johan, you spent more time, though, in these cars. If you're one of these guys up front, where do you want to be coming out of heading towards the bus stop?
That's difficult. You would almost say that depends on the drivers that you're battling with. Going into it blankly, I probably want to be P2 in that battle. I don't want to be all the way behind because you have to overtake 2 cars in one straight, and that's really difficult to do. But being the leader of the pack, I would almost say that you're a sitting duck. So basically, if you see this 3-car battle, and this would be the last corner of the race, I would be in the position that Robert Hartley is in at the moment, because that's probably the best position to have that mix of track position and draft to really help you get that victory.
With apologies to the rest of the field here, with 1.5 laps to go, we haven't spent much time up front. That's where we're going to spend most of our attention here. Swanky, Hartley, Katchen. The 2 drivers in 2nd and 3rd each have wins. Travis Swanky looking to get his first this season.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, though, because Robert Hartley and Sonny Katchen are both extremely quick. We've seen that in qualifying, especially with Robert Hartley with his 46.2, 4/10 quicker than either of his 2 rivals. And especially with the draft that you factor in, it would be really difficult to beat them.
From what I've seen in qualifying and then what I saw from Hartley racing by himself and then catching up to the guys, I think Hartley has the best car. Let's see what kind of strategy he employs. He's going to go for the lead.
Yeah, he wants to be leading this this free guard group, going down Lasor's hairpin, I think. Making the move stick before Blanchimont. Let's see what Sonny Kenshin actually does. Sonny Kenshin is actually quite a little bit behind. Now, of course, not far behind enough to lose the draft, but he is far enough behind to not be able to try and overtake on Travis Swanky and bring himself one position forward in this group.
And just so you know, here's the start-finish line right here. Right in that shadowy section that they go through.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one more lap to go. Let's see how this will play out. It is Robert Hartley in P1. It is Travis Swanky in P2 and Sonny Kenshin in P3. Let's see how the positions will be after they go through Lacoum, because that's probably the positions they will be in once they approach the bus stop chicane for the final time.
I would think so too. Now from third, Ketch can easily get to Lacoum first from back here, especially if they go too wide in front. Let's see how this plays out. Ketchum with some good momentum. Here comes Schwenke through the middle. That's what I thought could happen. Let's see if there's room. And sure enough, Ketchum is going to do it.
And a good thing for him, though, is Schwenke and Hartley are still side by side. They're going to go side by side, so that means they will lose a little bit of time through Lacoum. Schwenke wants to keep it there. Schwenke actually gets that position. Lost an extra car leg because they kept it side by side there, but Sonny Kenshin gets the lead in that final rundown towards the bus stop chicane.
Now there's still passing opportunities here, but we may not see any until we get through Blanchimont down into the chicane and then the drive out. Let's see how this plays out. Kenshin, Swanky, and Hartley.
Just a quick update, the three cars behind him for P4 in the order: Steven van Opstal, Beroul, Smith and Gepiljewski. That's the order they race in at the moment out of no-name corner, and probably the order they will race in going towards bus stop chicane.
Through Puhan. Kenshin out in front. Three-time champion, looking to become the first four-time champion in the 16-season history of the MWT. Schwenke back in second. His teammate Hartley, maybe the fastest car out there. Your pole sitter in third.
Well, I think that Sonny Kenshin had the best run here through Stavelo corner, at least the most momentum. And of course, you have that extremely strong draft behind you. Let's see. Still slowly clawing the way forward to the cars in front of them. Robert Hartley is being blocked by Travis Swanky, who tries to make the overtake on the inside, going free wide through Blanchimont. It is Sonny Kenshin right on the outside. Robert Hartley gets it, threading the middle, passing Travis Swanky there. Sonny Kenshin going extremely wide.
Hartley taking the defensive line down into the bus stop. Kenshin dives it in deep in the middle lane. They do not touch. Now who can get the drive off? It looks like it's Hartley's going to have the momentum. Kenshin gets loose. Swanky's going to finish second, but give the win to Robert Hartley.
Behind them, Beroul, Smith is fending off Steven van Opstal and Gepiljewski. They're going side by side over the start-finish line. Does it stay like this? It is Beroul Smith with P4.
Let's go back to seventh. The two pro drivers, Heffert in front of Castro as they head towards the bus stop. Heffert takes the defensive line, now easing Castro over, Johan.
Touch each other there. Castro tries the up and under. Once again, he tries the undercut, going over the curb, so it's extremely hard, and he spins himself. That is Heffert who gets P7. Dexter Castro gets overtaken with several cars. Stephen Overgaard overtakes him. Kip Stevens overtakes him. Derek Holland doesn't manage so Dexter Castro comes home in P10.
Holland comes home in what will be 11th position, just ahead of Eric Koeman. There is another battle. Can we look at Hampson and Ursum? I think these guys are close together, and it looks like it's going to be Hampson getting the best of Jeroen Ursum. Woohoo! All right. With that, we'll let the rest of the drivers finish their final lap. The racing is over. The broadcast is not. We'll take a short break. We'll be back to run down the entire finishing order, talk to some of the drivers before we put a lock on the gate. Don't go far. Johan van der Velde joining yours truly, Bill Soupçon, on the microphone. Joe Peak, our director. This is the Global Sim Racing Channel's coverage of the Heusinkveld MX-5 World Tour Season 16, Round 4 from Spa. It was a good one. Let's give you the finishing order now. He was third going into the bus stop, but Robert Hartley shot through the middle, then held on to get the win, his second of the season. Travis Swenke, just looking for his first win, has to settle for second. Your points leader, Sonny Ketchen, is going to come home third. Then it was the battle for the fourth, fifth, and sixth from these guys. How did it play out? Well, Anwar Burrell-Smith got the best of it. Stephen Van Ofstrel and Stelian Chepelevsky come home in that order. Between the battle between Steve Hefford and Dexter Castro, well, Castro spun. He had to finish in 10th. Hefford comes home in 7th, and going around them was Overgaard, and Kip Stevens. That rounds out your top 10. Johan?
Dexter Castro comes home in P10, and behind him is Derek Holland in P11. Erik Koeman with a heavily damaged car after that incident on the top of Aarhus in Radillon. He still brings it home in P12, 7/10 of a second in front of Jordi Fike. David Hampson finishes the race in 14th position, and he's being followed by Jeroen Oersen. A little while behind him, Robert Wieninga comes home in P16 with Björn de Vos after hitting the wall, bringing it home in P17. Renaud Lefebvre, one of the drivers who had a really good start and actually led a little bit at the beginning of the race in the Amateur Championship. He loses 5 positions in the race to come home in 18th position. And there's 3 drivers that didn't finish the race. Gene Fitters blew his engine, is classified in P19. Quintelier had a hard crash and is only classified in P20. And Tom Ratje already had an incident in the opening lap of the race, and he finishes in 21st position.
All right, that's our finishing order. Now I have the pleasure of talking to the driver who came home in second, and that is going to be Travis Swenke. Travis, welcome to the booth. Well, you got around Sonny, you got the lead, but you left a little too much space between you and your teammate, and gosh darn it if Robert Hartley didn't sneak through the middle.
Yeah, that was absolutely crazy. I thought I was close enough to Sonny, and when he went wide, Rob just took that hole, and all of a sudden it was 3 wide. Got a little bump, but all great racing. I don't have nothing at all with it. It was just, I was kind of surprised by it at first, and then I just knew I had to hold the inside. I had no idea where Sonny was at that point. I just knew Rob was next to me.
You know, with Hartley being so fast, and honestly, you finished second. I don't mean to slight you, but I think Hartley was the fastest car out there today. When he took that early stop, were you paying attention to him to make sure that he wasn't? Were you worried that he might be able to outpace you when he took the stop and you stayed out?
Yeah, there's a few people I have circled on JRT, and Rob is one of them. So I could tell right where he was on the track, and it looked like he came out in pretty clean air. Had a couple little spacers there to get some draft, and I knew he was running good laps. But I knew we were also running good laps. I knew it'd still come down to the pit stop, and obviously he nailed it because I definitely nailed mine. Sonny nailed his.
Pretty clean racing up front. There was a little bit of bumper cars going on through the bus stop a few times. Were you involved in that, or was your car clean?
No, I got my bump entering pit lane. So I thought I was braking early enough, and then I thought I was going to get to Sonny, and I broke just a little bit harder, and got just a little bump in the back. Nothing much at all. I'm looking at the car. It doesn't look like there was any damage. Yeah, some of the bumper cars, I'm sure it was just a stack up through there. There was just some. It was hard to figure out Shep's braking there for me at first. He brakes different than both Rob and Sonny. He kind of brakes easy then harder. So it was for me when I was behind him, it took me a couple laps, and I know I might have stabbed him once or twice, which probably caused a stack up.
Hey, if you don't want to answer this is fine. I know you take a lot of time with the figuring out the fuel flow and everything. How were your calculations? Were you on the money today?
I was right on the money. I had my bounds. I had my upper and lower bound, and I took pretty much right in the middle because I was in front in a few laps, and I had taken 0.1 extra. So that was it.
All right. Hey, sorry you didn't get the win, but thanks for putting on a good show for us.
Yeah, I was going to try that over-under, and when Sonny started to slide, I had to back out of it.
Yeah, luckily you didn't get caught up in that one, or it would have been a little worse, but you come home in second. Good job. Thanks a lot. We'll see you down the road.
Thanks a lot, Sue.
Travis Swenke, a good interview, a good racer, just a good guy overall. He spends a lot of time. I tell you what, we talk about it, the random fuel flow in the MX-5. He hates it. He just really hates that one. I think that's our only interview for today, Johan. So instead of just going straight out of this, I'll give you a little thoughts. Any final thoughts on the race today?
I mean, it was a really good race, I think, at least. Like nice, good battle until the last meters of the race, but not only on the front, in several groups throughout the grid. You had the top three, you had the three after that, two after that, and just to see it decided in the last few meters, that was just great fun to watch.
Okay, and I'd like to say, before I go to the thank yous, I'd like to thank one of our sponsors, and this is the people who sponsored the post-race show. It is Sim Sports News. You know, it is one of the first dedicated sim racing news websites that covers all broadcasted series on iRacing. It's ran by Jacob Tufts and Giovanni Quintier, who raced today. The Sim Sports News race team competes in many official racing series, iRacing series, as well as the one you just watched. So for more information, and I'm telling you, go there because it's really fun. There's some good information. It is simsportnews.com. And now let's thank a few more people that made this possible. How about the people at the Quality Racing Sim-dicate for organizing this series and contracting with GSRC to broadcast. Thanks to Heusinkveld. Affordable simulation software and hardware are thought to be of limited use for race teams and drivers, but their simulation solutions bring professional results within reach of any race team or driver without having to compromise on realism or engineering value. They offer a broad array of products and services, such as advanced vehicle simulation, software, and hardware. They are also able to simulate any combination of race car and track, including a full-fledged cockpit environment. With unparalleled realism, Heusinkveld solutions are currently being used by professional teams and drivers in Formula Ford, GP3, GP2, and Formula One. Now these products are available for any professional team or driver looking for an edge in racing. Be a better race car driver. Get in touch today. We'd also like to thank the people at SimSport that we did. Remember, go ahead and check with them. Thanks to the company's equipment or software that you see on the screen right now that we use on the broadcast. The original music you've heard on today's show is thanks to Eric Echolm and June Lalonde. See the screen to how to contact each of them. Hey, the Heusinkveld MX-5 World Tour returns for round 5 in 1 week, November 3rd, from Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. GSRC will be there. We hope you join us as well. Sliding across your screen right now are just some of the upcoming broadcasts, so check them out and mark them down on your calendar. If you'd like more information about GSRC, including a complete list of future broadcasts, you can find it all at GlobalSimRacingChannel.com. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel. Hey, it's not on here. Don't forget Instagram, GSRC_Graham. And finally, on behalf of the entire crew, Johan, Joe, and Dougie, I'd like to thank all of you for watching. With that said, we're off to have fun storming the castle. So until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.